Churches are supposed to be places where people must find refuge and comfort. Churches of the olden days and churches of the modern days are not the same. But the mainstream churches, for example, the Catholic, the Anglicans, and the Lutherans, have had to face up with crime sins 10, 15, 20, 30, 60 years later, when the altar boys walked up to their pastors and their bishops, including the Pope himself, having to answer for some of the crimes that these clergymen had committed to these young people. We've also heard of stories ranging from abortions within the monasteries and cathedrals. We've also heard of bribes that are happening, financial abuse, and all sorts of things are happening. South Africa and Africa has not remained innocent from this conversation. From as high as Nigeria to Ghana, to Zambia to Zimbabwe, this new wave of prophetic ministries, this new wave of evangelical and Pentecostal churches, with no rules to govern them, with no boundaries as to what they can do. And again, this is like a funeral and undertaking business, like a taxi business, where there are no regulations, there are no rules. The leader and the owner of the church becomes a law unto himself. What he thinks, what he feels, and what he wants to do, either with money, with the people, with their properties, and their consciences, remains solely as to his conviction. Ethics has become a big problem within the Christian space because there's no accountability totally in some certain spaces. As to the mainline churches, where there seems to be, to a certain extent, some form of structures that are there, but even there, you still find that names count, money counts, relationships count, and many cases have been swept underneath the carpet, because the leaders of the church can talk their way around it. In some certain cases, even members of the church will gang around the one who has been victimized, asking them, begging them to remove those cases from the police files. It's even worse when your parents are also involved in these religious environments, and then they become the protector of justice, because now I say you're embarrassing the family. We have had these cases happening over and over again, and particularly just before the corona and post the corona era. 2020 has been a year of exposure. I wish one of these great pastors who have good prophecies, hey, I see this is going to happen this year, I wish they'd prophesied that this year is going to be gloves off, it's going to be an uncovering, it's going to be unmasking of the shenanigan, charlatan, mischievous behaviors of the ministers that have been happening behind the closed doors. There's nothing wrong with people making money, but be open and be frank about it. But when some of these means and methods of using money have to do with destroying young girls' lives, destroying young boys' lives to enrich yourself, then there's a problem. I have a hot show for you tonight. Don't move away from your chair. I have with me in studio Sihle Sibisi, and just say hello to the guests for now. Just hello.
Hello to all the guests out there. Good evening, and thank you so much for having me on your
Today, they are the guests. You are hosting them today.
Yes, of course.
You are hosting them. And just before we go very far, we will play you a small little video clip from introducing you to what Sihle is doing with a beautiful organization, Kwanele Mfundisi. For some of you who are in Bujumbura, in Kenya, in Congo, wherever you are watching us around the face of Africa, Kwanele means it's enough. Umfundisi, abusa, bishops, pastors, men of God. This organization is saying enough is enough. Let's just have a look at this video clip.
Ngizothi I stand for the truth. Kwanele enough is enough. Masiyeke ukuthula. Masiyeke stop telling the other chick because nisakukhuluma. Manje amaphoyisa wendawo. Manje amakhalane wendawo. Anobhadela ukwanele mfundisi. Sizongenelela. Ngoba bafika ku-politician, councillor, MEC, whatever you are. There's no respect of power when it comes to abuse within the church. Ngithobeka. Ngikhulume nawe kakhulu izolo mntakama. Wethobeka ngicela ungibuke. Ngathi mina wena. Yabona okwenzeka kuwena ngakami. Ifanele wena. Ngoba wena kuphela ungayimela le nto. Kubuhlungu ukunyama kunjalo sonke. Noma bangathi wena babulele, noma bangathi iy'ngane zethu bezinekhaya, uzilahlelela, wazi uma wakho ungasile, mamele bazohleze bakhuluma abantu abali ngawe. Mamela, bazokhuluma bakhuluma abali ngawe, but what I'm saying is, draw strength. And thina izikwanele mfundisi, sizohambisana nothobeka. Makiwe amakhoso besilapho. Mpelo kasifika khona ngikhulumile nawe, sesilinde ngikhulumile nawe, ngihlalele nawe go, izolo. Ngathi from today, ikwanele mfundisi is a part of the family. We are your family. Abantu basehope bafune babone ngani ukuthi leyo kuthula nabahlungu.
So today we are at Pietermaritzburg because we are at the head office of the KwaZulu-Natal Council of Churches. We are here to meet with the head of the Council of Churches because as that we are making waves in KwaZulu-Natal. So today it's our meeting with them to basically give them information about Kwanele Mfundisi, that we are not against pastors, we are not against churches, but we are the voice to the voiceless, and we are here to help victims that have been victimized by churches and pastors. So we are here to sit down, have a round table with the Christian Council Association in KwaZulu-Natal, and we are party inside a session.
Welcome one, welcome all one more time. And as you are looking on my thinking stick here, you've seen me use this in the past. The woman in her childhood, the woman in her middle age, the woman in her old age, making memories throughout life. And I will want to structure this interview in that fashion. Then we're going to have a way forward as to not just sharing stories, but actually beginning to find a way as to how and what best can we do to deal with some of these social ills, in this case, religious social ills. I want to start with you right here. Who is Sihle as a young baby? Tell us where you come from. Where's mommy, where's daddy, and where do you start?
Sihle Sibisi. I am born to my late father, Mr. Sibisi, and my mother, Miss Sibisi, and was born, I'm the second daughter out of the three that my parents...
Your mother should have had more. They come out well.
I'm number two.
Number two.
From the daughters that my parents conceived between themselves. Sihle then grew up at Jablani. And then from Jablani, we moved to Joburg South. Parents bought a home in Joburg South, went to primary school, high school, university, and then life happened. Yeah. So when I got to matric, that's when I was introduced to these prophetic ministries. You know, my aunt, who is my late dad's sister, had they called it a terminal illness, one of those illnesses back in the days. And my mom, where she was working, her colleague advised her to say, there's this prophet. He's from Zambia, and he can heal these ailments.
There's a healer in town.
Yeah, there's a healer in town, and apparently when you get to his church, there are cameras all over the place, and he lays hands on you, and whatever ailment auntie might have, she'll be healed. So that's how my mother was introduced to this church. So obviously.
But which church were you in originally?
Originally, Pume Nazarene.
Nazarene.
Ejablan.
Okay.
Yes, Ejablan, Wakuma Road.
Okay.
This is a Nazarene under Babunkosi, the late Babunkosi. I grew up Stula. The Stula's bizwa sweet sisters, me and my siblings sing. So Mama was introduced to that church because Auntie had an ailment. And then Mom went to the church. Obviously, Auntie is my late dad's sister. So my dad went suit to go and see Uti. Aibo, there's a healer in town from Zambia. Let's go see what's happening. So that's how we all ended up in the church, because Auntie then had to relocate from Gubo to go stay in the church, because when you're sick with an ailment, you stay within the church for prayers and healing, whatever that needs to happen.
How did that end up, that healing process?
Well, back in those days, I think many people wrote Auntie off because she had lost a lot of weight. And many people, I know or whatever they called her. Yes. And most people never thought she'd see the next year. But fortunately for her, she's still alive till today.
Wow.
I think it's because she started taking her medication.
Okay.
And I think she started eating healthy. That's what I attributed to, because I saw a lot of other people who were in the church during my stay there who died from the same ailment. Yes. So,
but it was not a touch and heal. It did not happen that way.
No, it wasn't touch and heal. You have to move into the mission house of the church to go and stay there. And it's like the healing yakona is a process where while you're staying in that mission house, you are being prayed for. Yeah, being prayed for, laying of hands, given food, praying all the time.
Okay.
So
activating your faith.
Yes. Because at the end of the day, they would say your faith is what will heal you. So we started going to the church, and then out of my siblings, Sihle is the extrovert. I'm the one who's out there. You know, I sing, and I was a matric. We joined the church. I remember the church was still in Parktown. So it was in one of
next to the police station.
Next to the police station in Parktown.
It's amazing. Yeah?
Yes, just behind.
Behind the
maybe
police station.
2 blocks away from the police station.
Yeah.
It was in Parktown, and before then there was no BP garage in front of it, so it was a whole open field.
Right up the Constitution Hill.
Yes, just by the Constitution Hill.
And the Constitution and the police.
Just down there.
And
this mission house is
and
there.
this mission house is right
yes.
there.
So this man from Zambia comes, he occupies the mission house. Then I was basically handpicked because they had a praise and worship team there. At that time, the church was at the mission house. And then the church moved from the mission house to YWCA at that time, up the road in Braamfontein. And then I was one of the first young girls to join the worship team, because the worship team at that time was comprised of old people. So we joined the worship team, and and I mean, you know, we joined the worship team, and at that time the band was not even full-time in the church. They would just come and play after playing.
Session musicians,
yeah. And then from the worship team, I was handpicked that I need to come and stay at the mission house. The prophet has seen a calling upon my life. I need to go and stay at the mission house. Yes, but at that time we didn't think in Katazu Yakala. At that time we didn't think that trouble was brewing, because it is set up in such a way where when you're closer to the prophet, you are seen as this great person, like as this holy. It's a privilege to be close to the man of God, to the prophet. So then at that time, he didn't have pastors. He had people that he called disciples, you know, people that worked under him as disciples. But obviously he was the God of the church, and he still is. His word is final. So I moved into the mission house. I was a matric, moved into the mission house. I attended matric in Johannesburg South, Sir John Adamson High School. And during that time, completed my matric, and then I was at the mission house, went to Witwatersrand University. Now my campus, because I did a Bachelor of Education, was just across the park. So I could walk from the mission house
Across the road.
Across the road.
Just down Empire Road.
Down Empire Road to Wits University Education Campus and walk back every day. So the mission house had no doors, no windows. I remember the main gate, we used to lock it with a big lock, you know. And when you enter the mission house, it's like I can see it now. When you enter the mission house, on your left-hand side was the prophet's office. And then
you pass by it.
You have to pass by it. You pass by the prophet's office, and then further down was the lounge, then there was a kitchen. Then when you move back, there were the offices for his young boys that he came with from Zambia. And us girls, our bedrooms were upstairs. So we would walk upstairs. So when you enter, you have to pass that office, you would see him because his door was always open. And then in fact, when it started, the office was first at the top, not downstairs. It was at the top by our bedrooms. So we went, and then we're sitting in the bedroom. The rooms we'd find there were 4, 5, 6 beds in a room, so we would share.
It was like a dormitory sort of.
Yes, but it was young, beautiful girls staying at the
like
mission
yourself.
House. Yes, imagine when I was 16, 17, I was very, very, very hot. So it was young, beautiful girls who were staying there. And we would have maybe...
Specially selected.
Yes, because you can't just say, I want to go stay at the mission house. You must be selected to say, you go stay at the mission house. You are born of the world, but you're not of the world. So the mission house is protecting you from the world. So you're at the mission house, and now the way it was structured, as I corrected myself, his office was first upstairs. So you go upstairs, it's the girl's bedroom, the prophet's office, the bathroom. So when you go into the bathrooms, you via the office and back way up.
Some small little towels and stuff.
No, but the funny thing is, even if you were from the bathroom when you get into your bedroom and you're changing, he would sometimes just open the door wide open, and you get scared to say, oh my God, why is Prophet walking in here? But
in the bathroom there's no doors.
Yeah, but what are you hiding? It's nothing I've never seen. So it became a norm where you kind of just got used to it to say, okay, mission house.
The prophet knows you.
Prophet knows us, and anyways we're told
it's like a daddy.
He can hear, he can see things. So you can't speak bad about the prophet, and you can't think or say anything bad against him because he can see and he can hear it. Then we had other young women, maybe your yuppies, the young ones who've just started working, they would be placed there as the mother houses. Now at that mission house, the one lady who was working for South African police was staying also at the mission house. She married one of the prophet's spiritual sons all the way from Zambia. So she was looking after us, she was guarding us, she was the main mother house.
The police woman.
The police woman, the SAPS woman, the very one that helped Prophet to hide some of his cases when people would report cases. So she was staying outside the mission house. There was another place that she was staying there with her husband and her kids. Mission house happened. I've seen it all.
What used to happen in these mission houses?
I've seen it all. There was a girl, so for you, number one.
From the stories that you are hearing, from your own experience.
From my own experience, for you to stay at the mission house, we were all subjected to HIV tests. So we all had to go and test. We can even verify if Hillbrook Clinic is still there. We all had to go up and do our HIV tests at the Hillbrook Clinic. I'm sure they'll tell you during that time when I was staying there, when I was 16, 17 years old, there was a huge influx of girls going there for HIV tests from the church. And the reason why we were told that we need to get these HIV tests, because if you're HIV positive, Prophet will pray for you and you'll get your healing. And if you're negative, glory to God. Not knowing that he is checking out. Screening whom he can vulgate, touch, do whatever with, you know. So I've always been outspoken. I've always been the loud mouth. So he would actually warn people against Sihle Sibisi to say, this one, she talks too much. Watch out what happens or what is done around her. But the girls who were staying with at the mission house, some were sleeping with the prophet, some were sleeping with the prophet's sons within the mission house, and you would see these things. There's an incident of a girl who tried to commit suicide from the mission house. She jumped off the roof because there was a new girl that came into the mission house. So the new girl is in, she's no longer Prophet's flavor. So she's sidelined, and now the new girl that made our uniforms at the church at that time, because we had to wear uniforms, is now the favorite of the Prophet. So this one wrote a long letter, a suicidal note, drank pills and jumped off. So unfortunately that letter landed in my hands. And she jumped off, the police came, they opened an inquest. The next thing you know, the girl was kicked out of the mission house. She had to go back to the RDP or shacks where she came from. And life continued as if nothing ever happened. Mission house.
She didn't die, fortunately.
No, she didn't die, unfortunately. But she was kicked out of the mission house because she tried to kill herself for those reasons. And I remember I was told, I had to then hand over that letter to one of Prophet's son. To say, here's the letter, I saw but I didn't see anything at all. Like, you just don't...
Just black out.
Yeah, you have to black out.
For your own safety.
Yeah, I was even, there was a guy...
But you read the letter.
I read the letter. The girl was killing herself because Prophet was no longer giving her attention. He was no longer taking her for long drives like they used to. And her virginity was taken by the Prophet. Now there's this new girl and he's no longer giving her the same attention that he used to. At the mission house, I remember back then I was one of the few girls who had cell phones. They took away our cell phones. If you wanted anything from your family, you needed to write a letter. When you write the letter...
Get permission.
Yes, you write a letter saying, I would like to buy underwear, or I'd like to buy something, or I'd like to go visit my family. Whatever letter you write, you give it to the mother house, who then is the one that gives to the Prophet. And then you wait for the Prophet's permission. Then the Prophet will come back and say yes or no. So determining on his yes or no, you are allowed to go home, see your family, speak to people or not. And the most funniest thing is, being at the mission house, and then at some point, there were lots of guys from Zambia that he came with. And then being at the mission house, we lived there, we cooked, we cleaned, we basically worked at the mission house but went to school. People ask me, why didn't you think of running away? Because the mission house is in Parktown, your family's house is in Johannesburg South. But there was nothing that made me want to run away because my mother is a pastor at the church. It's normal. I see her on Sundays when I do see her. And you go into that zone of thinking that everything is okay, it's all right, it's the way of life, and that's it. But when you look back now, you're like, what happened to my youth? What happened to me? I lost so much of myself.
How long were you in this institution?
Sure. I was there for the longest because I remember there was also a time when the Prophet himself, I had asked to go visit my family at home. And the Prophet phoned on the landline at home. I remember so well. And he told me there was a man at the church that loved me, wanted to marry me, and blah, 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 blah. So in a way, you are already introduced to the system. You know, so there was this guy that loved me, wanted to marry me at the church, and everybody knew about it, that this guy wants to marry me and all these things. So already fornication was the order of the day. You know, we would have sex, we would sleep together. He was allowed to pick me up at the mission house, take me out, and as long as I sleep and I come back and I'm brought back and whatever. So it was the order of the day where it was a normality. We had girls who would rock up at the mission house brought in by the Prophet. Some would confess that they were prostitutes from the streets that Prophet brought into the mission house. I've seen girls that died at the mission house because when you're HIV positive or you have any chronic ailment, you're told to stop taking your medication. You are healed in Jesus' name. Stop taking your medication. And the sad thing is, you stay at the mission house, you are isolated from your family. I couldn't go bury people close to me. You're not allowed to go to funerals. There's a friend of mine who's part of the Kwanele Foundation right now. She's our ambassador in KwaZulu-Natal. Her name is Piwe. She was not allowed to go bury her biological father in KwaZulu-Natal when he died.
Now the Prophet is the father now.
No, because when she was alerted that her father died in KwaZulu-Natal, she told the mother house. The mother house told the Prophet, and they said, no, she's not ready to go. She can't go. She didn't. Till today, she pleads for that to say, Sihle, I was robbed of the opportunity to go bury my own biological father at the mission house. She was subsequently kicked out because she rebelled. When she had to go graduate, she went. When she came back, they told her it's time to leave, and that was that. You know, you would walk in on Prophet doing amazing things. You'd walk in on him having sex with people. You would walk in on him. There were times when you'd walk into his office, then the office moved from upstairs, it went downstairs, so you'd still see it. Sometimes he prays for you, you wake up and your bra is off and your top is off. How? You don't know. But the one thing that they did, and they were very good at, is that everything that happened there, they had a camera. So everything was documented or archived for what I don't know. Because now even the guy that was the cameraman for the church has left the church. And he says to me, Sihle, that man needs to account. He has hurt and destroyed so many people's lives, and he's got everything archived. So whatever you say, he's got a justification for it. I was praying for her to take out demons. It's not me who took her clothes off. We don't know what the hell he did it for, but everything that was done there was documented, recorded, and everything.
At any given time, how many girls would you find there?
At the mission house.
Yes, the mission house.
When his office moved from upstairs to go downstairs, then there was 3 bedrooms, and then there was one special small one where his main mistress stayed there. Yeah.
So you would graduate to go there?
Yeah, the main mistress stayed there, so he would go upstairs anytime he wanted.
So if you had 3 rooms with 6 beds in each?
Yeah, in each
that's
room
roughly
was like 1, 2, 3, about
6
6 beds, 4, 5, 6
18,
bedrooms.
say about 20,
yeah,
20
about
young girls.
18, 20 young girls that are there, South Africans. that are there, young girls, because our parents are part of this church. So for them, it's normal for us to be at the mission house. And every girl, like you are. I always say to people that I was taught how to master the act of manipulation. I was taught how to pretend as if everything is well, because when you get to church you pretend as if it's well, you go on stage, you're a worshiper, you're singing, and then other girls, they envy you. You're staying at the mission house, and Prophet would always sing praises of his mission house girls, you know, the mission house girls, this and that, so other girls would want to join
in uniform and everything.
Yeah, we were wearing navy uniforms with orange shirts at the time because we were in the worship team. I remember there were times where I would rebel, where when we go to varsity, we were not even allowed to wear pants. Imagine, you can't go to wear pants. So we're given these shetenges, these cloths.
The Zambian,
Zambian cloths,
yeah.
wrappers. So you'd wear your top, then you must go to school in shetenges. So me, I would tie my shetenge up.
Fashionable.
Walk to school.
Like a
walk to school.
And throw it away.
When I get to campus, take it out, put it in the bag. Finish.
On your way back.
That is it. On my way back, put it back on. But that's when I started seeing that this prophet really can't see. Because when I get to campus, I would.
You mean you were really convinced that he could see?
Yes, you couldn't even talk about him. You couldn't even voice yourself out to say, this is how I feel. This, because you were afraid that prophet can see and hear.
Take me through that. In hindsight, how much psychological brainwashing goes through these institutions until you take a mind of a father and a mother and a child, and you capture them?
It's deep. It's deep. Whatever, because I don't know.
Is it normal?
It's not normal at all when you look at it, because you'd have academics. I remember there was a lady who was an academic. She was working at this PR company, very brilliant lady. She left her job to be the prophet's PA. She's got a husband, she's got kids, but she was forever in the church. Because when you're at the church, your whole life is at the church. Your phone cannot be off 24 hours of the day. You must be at the church. So it really consumes and takes over you completely. I remember incidences where my dad would rock up at church demanding me back, saying he wants his daughter back. I'd be on stage singing and my dad would be there wanting me back. But guess what? The very South African men who are bodyguards for the prophet are the ones that would stop him. And even me, myself, as a daughter, would, at that moment when it happens, it's like, no, my dad is not okay.
He's embarrassing me now.
Yeah, like,
I'm
Dad,
okay.
Don't embarrass me, I'm okay. And again, you get scared to say, I'm going to be kicked out of the mission house. Don't do this to me. I'm okay. I don't want to leave. But for some reason, when that happens, you are automatically in that
in the deep end.
Yes, of saying, I'm okay, leave me alone, it's fine, you go. You understand? To a point where my dad, each time I would be given a chance to visit at home, he would sit me down and say, Mtanam, sono siphi lesenis committee leso uNkulunkulu angeyanixolele kuso. What sin is it that you've committed that God cannot forgive you in? And I would ask why. He says, because you live at the church, you pray all the time, you don't give God a break. What is going on? But to show you how strong whatever power that prophet has or whatever he uses to manipulate people, I could still even defy my own father. Like, I would go home, and if I wanted to leave, I would leave and go back to church. It was okay. So he became powerless.
Take us through a small little detour, because we don't want to understand. We also want to understand the miracles that are said to manifest themselves in these churches, and how that is actually used as a marketing wing to lure people in. Because I see your family through your aunt, that became the capturing thing, but the real agenda, which later on consumed 10 years of your life.
Yeah, it consumed the whole lot
That's
of
right
time.
there. And what happens in these miracles, really in terms of miracles, is it true that all stuff that is happening in these churches is true miracles that happen?
Personally, I'll tell you right now, my aunt was never healed of her ailment. I know she's still taking medication till today. Personally, people that I know who've had ailments in that church have never been healed. They're still taking medication. Those who stopped taking medication died. There's a girl I was close with, God rest her soul, Unombulelo. She stayed away from her family in KZN, stayed at the church. When she started getting sick, Prophet himself personally drove her to her house in KZN, dropped her off and left, and the girl died. So I've never seen anyone personally getting healed from such ailments.
These things that we hear about cooked miracles, cooked healing.
Oh, well, the cooked things, I saw those in Nigeria.
Okay.
I saw those with my
How did you end
naked
up in
eye.
Nigeria?
So how do I end up in Nigeria? This prophet here in Johannesburg.
What is this prophet's name?
The prophet's name is Philip Banda. He's from Zambia. Woo! I can't wait to sit with him like this face to face.
Philip Banda.
Philip Banda. He's from Zambia. People say to me, you hate him. I say, yes, I hate him. Why do I hate him? Not only did he destroy my youth, not only did he take time out of my life, he's destroyed my entire family. Because as I sit with you today, I have no relationship with my biological mom, because my mom is still a senior pastor at his church.
And your father?
And my father passed on. My father passed on. My mom is still a senior pastor in the church, and everything that must be done that has to do with me and my children, she has to consult that Philip Banda. And we have no relationship with my mom, because at his church, you are taught that if people leave the church, you must turn your back away from them. They are no longer part of us. They're not family. You can't talk to them. You can't do anything with those people. Turn your way up. I've got people in that church who hate me for reasons they don't know why they hate me.
Where does your mother find money to contribute towards the offerings in this church?
My mom works.
What has been happening? She's working.
My mom works. My mom works. She contributes to the church, and of late I heard she sold my dad's properties, meaning my dad's house. She sold the house.
Family house.
Yes, the family house.
And where's the money?
Dad's family house, and she's possibly given it to that Philip Banda, because Philip Banda himself is now, remember the church was in Parktown. It moved and he bought a building. He bought a building at number 8 Small Street. So that building at number 8 Small Street, he's now put it up for sale on Property 24 for 15 million. And now he's bought a site in next to Lanseria Airport. He calls it Shiloh.
The new, but they say the new Johannesburg.
Yes.
So he's already positioned.
He's already positioned there. He bought a site in Lanseria, nearby Lanseria. He calls it Shiloh. And there are lots of people who've been writing to Kwanele Foundation saying, Sihle, you are not the only one that we've been hurt by this Philip Banda. It's just that we're not brave enough to talk and come out. So he's bought a site there, and people in his church are contributing toward the church site, the church building, whatever you call it, because now he's moved from Emerensha, from where he used to. He first was staying in Hillbrow. He went to stay in Emerensha. He's no longer in Emerensha. He's now staying in Sandhurst with his family. And he's got kids all over the place. Now, kids all over the place. That's why I'm saying.
Of the stories that you have received, how many kids roughly?
In Zambia, we got about 6 different emails from 6 different baby mamas who are saying we've got kids with this man.
6.
Some of the kids are crippled, that disabled kids. There's a son of his who's 40 years old who wrote to us saying that man acknowledges me not. In Zambia, he's messed up. They don't want to see him in Zambia. In the UK, he was married, or he's still married, and he's got kids in the UK.
And in South Africa?
In South Africa, he's got kids everywhere. There are kids, he pays women off to keep quiet. He gives you money to keep quiet, have abortions, or if the kids are there, just shut up and not do a thing about those kids that are existent. Now, these people write to us, and they're saying, this man, like my friend who has a child with him.
Your friend is a child?
Yes. He raped her. And this happened 17 years ago, because the child they have that was conceived from rape is 17 years old today. She was raped by him, and then he married her off to one of his spiritual sons. She opened a case against Philip Banda of rape. Guess what? The very cop that was staying with us at the mission house, SAPS, is the one that helped Philip Banda to shut that case down at the Hillbrow police station. That woman.
You know this woman?
Yes, I know that woman very well. That woman never got justice for the rape that Philip Banda put her through, because the son is there. Philip Banda was subjected to DNA testing. DNA testing that he was subjected to, he went for the DNA testing, and when he got for the DNA testing, this Philip Banda, that the results came and said 99.9% the child is his. He then responded and said, I don't want to have anything to do with this child ever in my life. He's paid maintenance and he stopped. When this woman wrote to us again, when Kwanele Foundation started in August, we exposed him. After the woman went live on SABC to talk, immediately he paid 5,000. He phoned, reached out to pay 5,000 for the child's thing. There's a girl that he's paying her 200,000 every month just for her to keep quiet, because she wrote to us also to say, this is what Philip Banda is doing to me. We've got audios.
What had he done to her? This one. So he's paying about 200K.
Yeah.
Just to silence.
He has a house where certain girls, right now, people, his office workers are girls. His PA, his junior staff, everyone is girls. His church at 8 Small Street, because now COVID, they don't worship there. But in that church, he has a bedroom. In that church. In his office, there's a bedroom. And if you're close to him, he has a house that he bought where he keeps these girls there. He buys you a car, he keeps you in that house.
He's got money now.
So yes, he's billionaire. So he keeps you in the house, you drive around in cars that are named after him. There you leave the church, he takes the car back and he kicks you out of the church.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back after the break, I just want to hear how Sihle moves from Johannesburg
to Nigeria
and finds herself in Niger. Don't go away. We'll be back right after the break.
Sihle Sibisi, ngiphumegoli, ngifounder ye-foundation ebizwa iKwanele Foundation. Ngaphakathi kweKwanele Foundation sinoKwanele Mfundisi, abantu bemisipha sami. Ingani sinuKwanele Mfundisi? It's because in our lifetime of 2020 we are tired of abafundisi abangenaqiniso. Sikhathele abafundisi Sihle Sibisi